Welcome to the 100th episode of The Running Wine Mom. I cannot believe we are here. 100 episodes of late night editing, early morning voice notes, stolen nap time recordings, and conversations that have changed me. This podcast has been part therapy, part storytelling, part love letter to the chaotic, beautiful world of motherhood. And today, it's something even more personal, because this episode isn't just for the listeners who've been with me from day one or the ones who found me somewhere in between. This one is for my kids, the little humans I'm raising, Willow and Parker, the ones who inspire me on the best days and absolutely unravel me on the hard ones. Like today, I am recording from Shenandoah on our vacation little getaway, and it was a long day hiking with them, but anyway, they're the ones who watched me chase something that lives outside of their needs and who I hope one day will understand why I did. One day they'll grow up and maybe stumble across this episode. And when they do, I hope they hear my heart in every word. And maybe you'll hear a bit of yourself in it too. Much of this episode will be more of a letter to the kids, but I hope that it resonates with all of you listening. So without further ado, let's get this episode started. So again, to start off, I'm recording in Shenandoah National Park. I am sitting on a beautiful swing and I am taking time away from my family on this vacay. But if you are watching this on YouTube, I'm going to flip my camera around, see our beautiful view. And this is, as I will get into later, like what my dream is of how I would like to end up podcasting and being able to travel. I'm on break right now from school, but this has just been such a wonderful getaway. And to be able to kind of do this intermixed in our trip would be something that I would love. So now with all of that, let's get this episode started. Again, a lot of this is going to be letter-esque. I will have a Q&A that a lot of the listeners have sent some things in earlier on Instagram, and I am so excited to share the answers. I had some really good questions, and on the way down, which was it's about a 4-hour drive, I was able to write out what my answers were to them. So, all right, here we go. Dear kids, here's what you need to know about mom. I'm your mom, but I'm not just your mom. I'm a woman who needed to create something of her own. I'm someone who dreams big, messes up often, and still gets up early the next morning with coffee and hope. This podcast started when I needed a voice, and over time, it's become the voice I never knew I had. So I want to talk about my identity outside of being my kid's mom. I spend a lot of time being a mom. It's the role I am certainly most proud of, the one that's changed me the most, that stretched me in many different ways, but challenged me as well. But I also want my kids to know that I am more than that, and I was more than that, and I still am more than just being a mom. Um, to my kids, before you were born and even now, I've always been a woman who loves to move her body, not just for fitness, but for sanity. I love to run. I love to lift. I love how strong and grounded I feel when I show up for myself in that way. I love going out to dinner with my girlfriends and having deep, hilarious, soul-filling conversations over good food and, of course, better wine. I prioritize my marriage, not perfectly, but intentionally. I carve out time to laugh with your dad, to check in, to be partners and not just co-parents, and that matters. I love connecting with people. I could spend hours talking, as many of you know, learning someone's story, meeting new faces, planning adventures, organizing events. That's where I come alive when I am building moments and memories with others. I crave exploration. As you know, we're here today in Shenandoah. I love to travel, to experience new places and new flavors, but I also love soaking in where I live. If you follow me on Instagram, for my listeners, this one's kind of, to kind of go off of my letter to my kids. I love a good staycation. I love exploring where we live. I look around often, I think, like, how lucky are we to be here and live here right now? And yes, of course, I love my wine, not just for the taste, but for what it represents to me. Slowing down, connecting, toasting the little things, and finding joy in ordinary evening. These are all parts of me that existed before I became your mom. And I hope that watching me live as a full person gives you permission to do the same. You never have to shrink who you are just to fit inside a role, even one as sacred as motherhood. What next? I want to talk about what drives me, what I've chased and what I've sacrificed. And I think about this a lot. What is actually driving me? Why do I keep building, recording, showing up, even when life is already full to the brim? And the truth is that I want to be remembered as someone who worked hard, not because I think hustle equals worth, even though sometimes I get caught up in that, but because I believe in showing up, in things, in giving things my all, in making the most of this one life that I have been given. What drives me is the deep pull to live fully, to explore, to try things I've never done, to experience moments and places and connections I wouldn't have access to had I just stayed in the safe lane, which is where I think I was going prior to starting all of this podcast. I had a good job. I obviously still have a great husband, great family, but I didn't have to grow anymore. And this really gave me that spark to grow. I've chased ideas that scared me. I've invested time, energy, and even money into dreams that really didn't always promise a return. I've sacrificed comfort, sleep, and that easy autopilot life because I wanted more, not just more success, but more meaning. And when my kids listen back to this one day, I hope that they understand it wasn't about being busy or trying to be everything. It was about making space for who I was truly meant to be. I want to show them, and I wanted to, and I still want to show them that when you feel something tugging at your heart, you follow it, even if it's messy, and especially, honestly, if it's messy. Next, I'm going to talk a little bit about my why I chose to build this podcast, this brand, this whole life. When I first started this podcast, I honestly thought it would be like just a little creative outlet. I know I've talked about this before. I wanted it to be a way to document memories, capture audio memories with friends and family. I wasn't thinking about building a brand or growing a platform necessarily. I didn't even think people would really say yes. I was just craving something that was mine. I now had so much time invested into my kids, but because of my husband's schedule, like I had all this free time. I wanted something that gave me energy in a season where I really felt like everything was about giving to others. Then something shifted. You know, the teacher in me, the part of me that always loved connecting, listening, helping, really started to fall in love with the growth of it all. I realized that by sharing other people's stories, by holding their space, by holding their truth, I was helping listeners really feel seen, which was something really important. I was giving people a place to land, and that became something so much bigger than I ever imagined. So, yes, I started this podcast for me, but I've kept going for all of you, for all of my guests on here, for the guests who show up with their open hearts, which is something that has been such a great experience to really have them share their stuff with me. For the moms who tell me that they listen while they're folding their laundry or walking their strollers or crying in the car, like that's something that I never thought would be happening. And that is why I continue to do this. Obviously, for my kids, who I hope one day will understand, it's okay to start small. I'm still small. As I'm doing this episode, thinking, who cares about what my experience has been, but I'm doing this for myself and for those who are listening as well. You never know what it might turn into when you follow what lights you up. And that is what I hope everyone can do. To my kids, what I hope you learn from watching me. I hope you learn that it is okay to be messy, that you can be loud and you can be soft. You can be strong and scared. You can be brave and unsure. I hope you see that ambition and motherhood aren't enemies, even though I had to work through that for a while. They can really grow together. And I hope you always know that your worth is not in how much you do, but in who you are. And being a mom didn't erase who I was, it expanded who I was. I want to talk a little bit about lessons on resilience and taking up space and trying even when you fail, because I feel like that I have learned a lot about that doing this podcast. I hope my kids and anyone listening learns that resilience doesn't mean you always have to be strong. It means you're getting back up, sometimes slowly, sometimes angrily, sometimes with mascara running down your face, but getting up anyway. And learning that failure isn't a bad thing. It's just giving you the tools you need to figure out how to succeed. I hope you learn that your voice matters, that taking up space in this world isn't selfish. It's important, especially when you're a woman. To my Willow, my wild woman Willow. It's important to take up space, especially when you're a mother. You're allowed to be loud. You're allowed to ask for help. You're allowed to say no. You're allowed to say yes to yourself. I hope you learn that failure isn't something to fear. Again, it's a sign that you tried, that you had the courage to want something badly enough to go after it. If you saw the number of things that I've launched and flopped, my husband and I were just talking about my Adventures of Mark and Sam page, came up on his like people you may know, that flopped. Business ideas have flopped, but episodes maybe I thought haven't gone as well as I wanted. By looking at all this, you'd see that success isn't clean or linear. It's layered and human and messy. And I hope that by watching me through the wins and the wipeouts, my kids learn that you don't have to be perfect to be proud of yourself. You just have to be honest and brave enough to try. And I always thought I had to be perfect to be proud of myself. And this has really showed me that you can be proud of yourself when you fail. So, next, let's talk about what it means to dream big, to mess up, and to still be proud of yourself. To my kids, I want you to know that dreaming big is brave. It means imagining a life that doesn't always make sense on paper. It means wanting more, not because what you have isn't enough, but because there's something inside of you that's still unfolding. When you chase big dreams, you will mess up. You'll launch things that fall flat. You'll say the wrong things. You'll question yourself constantly. You'll fall in small ways and in ways that feel like they broke something inside of you. But still, you'll be proud. You get to look at the messy middle, the moments when things didn't go the way you planned, and say, I did that. I still showed up. I grew, and I didn't let fear win. Being proud of yourself isn't reserved for the polished picture perfect moments. It's built in the in-betweens, in the effort, in the fact that you didn't let the fear of failure keep you from beginning in the first place. And that's something I hope that you carry with you always. Next, I want to share a few things that I don't want my children to internalize, like perfection, like hustle is worth, all of those things. And what I want to say is there are things that I hope you soak in from watching me, but there are also things that I hope you don't carry. I don't want you to think that you have to be perfect to be loved, respected, or successful because you don't. Perfection is a myth that steals joy, and I've wasted so much energy trying to be everything to everyone, and it never made me better. It just made me tired. I don't want you to confuse your productivity with your worth because you are not more valuable because you checked every box. Your value isn't in how much you accomplished, but in how fully you live and how fully you love. I don't want you to think that I don't want you to think that rest is a reward. It's not. I should take my own advice. It's a right though, and you are allowed to pause without guilt, without apology. I don't want you to inherit the hustle for the validation gene. That's something I am still unlearning every day. Look at me, I'm recording on vacation. I don't want you to grow up believing that being strong means never falling apart because true strength is knowing when to fall into someone's arms. It's crying when you need to, it's letting yourself be seen even in the mess. If I do my job right, you'll grow up knowing that you can be soft and powerful at the same time, that your wholeness includes your flaws, and that love, real love, isn't earned by doing, it's already yours. Next, I want to talk about motherhood, real version. It's not always pretty. I've yelled when I meant to whisper. I've cried in locked bathrooms, but I've also laughed so hard I spilled wine on the couch. I've held you in quiet 2 a.m. moments and thought, this is it. This is the magic. Motherhood is the greatest unraveling and rebuilding of myself that I've ever done. So, right now, I want to talk about what I wish someone told me about being a mom. And I wish someone had told me that there is no rule book for motherhood. There's no checklist, no gold star system, no one size fits all approach. You get to do what works best for you and your family, period. And that might look totally different than what your neighbor is doing or what social media says is right. That's not failure, that's alignment. I also wish someone had told me how much of motherhood is about really reparenting yourself, that working on your own stuff, your childhood wounds, your triggers, your patterns before becoming a parent or even while you're in the thick of it is one of the greatest gifts you can give your kids because how we show up emotionally matters. Learning how to regulate my own emotions has been such a game changer in being a parent. parent. Not so that I can be calm all the time, because spoiler, like I am not, but so I don't let my dysregulation define their experience. So I can model what it looks like to feel big feelings and still be safe, steady, and loving. I wish someone told me that parenting isn't about control, it's about connecting together and growing together. And connection starts with really knowing yourself. I want to talk about how motherhood changed me. Motherhood changed me in ways that no one can prepare you fully for. Mentally, it stretches you to capacity. You carry so many tabs open in your brain, and snack schedules, doctor's appointments, emotional check ins, your own goals. Somehow you're expected to do it all with grace. Some days I do, some days I crumble. Emotionally, it cracks you open. You feel everything more. The joy, the fear, the pride, the guilt, it all lives closer to the surface. Your heart literally lives outside your body now, which I never understood until I had kids. It's walking around in tiny little shoes. And physically, like, let's talk about it. You don't just bounce back, you rebuild. Your body becomes this incredible, messy map of survival and strength. Things shift, you ache in places you never used to, but you learn how powerful your body is, but also how much you need to take care of it. The version of me before motherhood, it doesn't exist. It's something I had to accept. And while I miss a part of her, I also don't want her back because of who I am now. Because the woman I've become, the one with the deeper empathy, the quicker tears, the quieter strength, she is someone that I am so proud of. Motherhood changes you, not just in the ways you see in the mirror, but the way you see yourself. All right, let's talk about why I kept going. There were so many days I almost quit, days when no one was listening, when tech failed, when life got loud, but I kept showing up for myself, for you, because one day you'll chase something that matters to you. And I want you to know that you're allowed to stick with it, even when it's hard. There were days I wanted to quit, days when I stared at my laptop at 10 p.m. after bedtime battles, a full workday, and a sink full of dishes, wondering, why am I doing this? Days when the schedule didn't line up, when I had to record in stolen pockets of time, nap windows, early mornings, late nights. I've sacrificed sleep, skipped rest, and ignored laundry, mountains of it, just to make these things happen. It's not because I didn't need rest, it's because I believe in this space. And even when it felt hard, even when I was tired, unmotivated, or overwhelmed, I kept going because this podcast isn't just content, it's purpose in my mind. Balancing motherhood, a full time job, a marriage, a household, and a passion project hasn't been neat. It hasn't been perfect. I've missed deadlines. I've showed up late. I've cried before hitting record. But every time I thought about walking away, I remembered why I started. I wanted to create something meaningful. I wanted to grow something of my own. I wanted to prove to myself and to my kids that consistency matters more than perfection. And that is something, the things worth building happen when no one is clapping yet, when it's just you, your gut, the quiet voice reminding you to really kind of keep on going. And so I want to remind you guys that consistency, even imperfect consistency, matters. And I hope that you can take that away from watching me do this, the podcast, the brand, the life. It's the consistency that matters. And again, not perfect consistency, not the kind where you show up every day, polished and prepared. I'm talking about the kind where you show up anyway. That's the most important. When you keep going, even when you're tired, unsure, overwhelmed, or off track. There have been episodes I recorded in my car when the internet wasn't working, in the place that I stopped, moments I hit publish with unwashed hair and a tired heart, weeks where life felt too heavy to be creative, but I still found a way to keep the thread going. And that's what builds something real, not the highlight reel, but the quiet commitment. And I want you to know that it's okay to be imperfect and still keep showing up. Progress isn't always loud and it's never linear. But every step, every voice note, every imperfect episode, it does all matter. And I hope that you can carry that with you no matter what path you choose. So, to wrap up this special episode, I asked my community to send in questions, and wow, you guys showed up. So, here's a little sit down, just me and you answering from the heart. Okay, the first question: what is your end goal for the Running Wine Mom? Honestly, I am not entirely sure yet. And I think that is really part of the magic. I would love to do this full time When I journal or manifest, I see myself podcasting around the world, speaking on stages, and helping people become the best versions of themselves. Right now, what I'm doing, recording this podcast in the mountains on vacation, is that would be my end goal, is doing this full time. On my way down, I was answering the questions and making the format of the podcast. I would love to do that. A life with enough revenue for freedom that I can work from anywhere, step away from the structure of a 5-day work week, even though I love teaching, but it would just be like a cool 5-year plan, I guess. Truly live in alignment of, having that freedom. All right, next question. How do you balance ambition with being present for your kids? This is a great question. I try to be really vocal about what I'm doing, like I just did, and it was actually so cute. I said, can I step away for about 30 minutes to go record this podcast? And Mark was like, yeah, I'm going to air out some wine for us. And Willow was like, there's a great place downstairs for you to record. And I just thought that was so cute because a lot of my work is on my phone and the computer, but I talk to my kids about it. They know that is part of my job. And I also carve out intentional downtime. So like after this, I'll be off my phone and computer for the rest of the night. I get a million ideas at once, which can happen. So I use my Google Workspace, like Google Sheets, to brain dump them for later so I can really stay in mom mode. So if I like get an idea, I'll just like quickly open up my Google Sheets, write it down, and then come back to it when I have the time. It's hard to do because people who own businesses will say like, you're never off. You want to keep doing stuff. I had to post something on our way to our hike today, and it's hard, but I try to have specific downtime. All right, next question. What would you say to the version of you who started episode 1? You have no idea what's about to happen. That quiet little idea you had while driving in the car, that's where I thought of starting the podcast. It's about to change your life. The fear of being judged is going to fall away because being judged was something that I realized through this whole process was a huge part of my life. But the impact that you're making will speak louder than anyone else's opinion. And I just, that person a little over 2 years ago, it's crazy because I would say like, you're in for some fun. Which guest surprised you the most and why? Okay, this is a funny story. I didn't even tell her this. Oh God, I don't even know if she's going to listen to it. But an episode that I haven't released yet, it's coming out in a few weeks, is Dr. Ellen Langer. She is a Harvard professor. She's known as the mother of mindfulness. I one night was like looking through the Harvard professors pages and I stumbled across her work and just like randomly sent her an email. I was like looking through the Harvard professors and I was like, wow, I love this person's stuff. And she booked before I woke up the next day. I know who she is, but I didn't connect who she was when I sent the email. I had no idea if she was like the mother of mindfulness. She's an icon, and the fact that she said yes and took time when she was in Mexico still blows my mind. I thought I, just would just be interviewing friends and family, and now people are like reaching out to me, which is wild. All right, next. What do you do when motivation disappears? I write a new schedule. Seriously, scheduling is how I function, and if I'm not motivated, I'll block it into a later time in my schedule. I also use timers to stay focused, one for work, one for rest, and both matter. So like I'll do like 20 minutes of rest, 20 minutes of work. And usually once I get into the work, I find myself like continuing the work more. What is your current favorite wine under $20? Mark West Pinot Noir is a staple. We just bought some. It's normally like $13 around me, but we bought some for here and I think we got it for like $10. It's great wine, great price, and I love me some Pinot Noir. What is one parenting opinion you've totally changed your mind about? That you have to follow all the rules, that you can't travel with when you have kids. Newsflash, if, as I mentioned before, there is no rule book for motherhood. Do what makes you happy. Stop comparing yourself to other people and their idea of parenting. Like, if it doesn't fit for you, you don't have to do it. The other thing is that you can't travel when you have kids. And someone that I interviewed said if people live in a city with children, that city can absolutely accommodate them. And I just felt like, you're right. Kids are born all over the world. Why can't I bring my kid on vacation? And we know it's not really vacation, but that's something that totally, my husband and I were just talking about earlier. We thought once you have kids, you can't travel anymore. And that's just a lie. How do you handle burnout when everything feels like too much? fresh air, movement, water, maybe some wine. Getting really honest about what actually needs to be done right now versus what can wait. And I have a hard time with that sometimes because I want to do everything all at once and I just have to like chill. But sometimes I just have to give myself that little reminder sometimes. Okay, this is the last question. What's something your audience doesn't know about you? I share a lot. If you've listened to my episodes, I'm pretty open about everything, but this is going to sound a little cliche. This podcast has truly changed the trajectory of my life. Before this, I was incredibly insecure. You might not have thought that about me because I am pretty outgoing, but I'm very self-conscious about a lot. I worried constantly about what other people thought of me. And I used to really believe that failure meant you failed. Now I just know it means you're learning. I still get imposter syndrome, but I also know this: we only get one life, and I refuse to live mine based on the fear of judgment or the possibility of failure. And the one thing with imposter syndrome that I have had, and I'm trying to work through it, is I've been able to meet so many incredible people through podcasting who I have this idea of. And when I do their intros, they're always like, oh my gosh, who is that person that you're talking about? Written on paper, we are so much more than like what we think about of ourselves, I feel like. And I think that has opened my eyes up, like, to me being able to fit into that category too. So the imposter syndrome is something, even though I'm very outgoing, I'm still pretty nervous inside internally, even though I love networking. All right, we have come to the final message for my little buddies and for you guys. So I'm going to leave it with like a note before I kind of end it. So, dear Willow and Parker, if you're listening to this years from now, I hope you hear my voice and feel how much I love you. I hope you know that everything I did, every late night, every early morning, every risk I took, was to build a life that showed you it's okay to dream big and love deeply at the same time. I hope you saw me try, mess up, get back up, and try again. And I hope it taught you that failure isn't something to fear, it's how we grow. I hope you remember the little things: dance parties in the kitchen, book stacks by the bed, trips to the towpath, playground dates, Shady Brook fun, the way I always tried to make the everyday feel like magic. I hope you know you were never a distraction from my purpose. You were the reason I found it. And above all else, I hope you know that you are so deeply loved, not for what you do, but for who you are. And I am endlessly proud of you. Love, Mommy. All right. Well, thank you all for being here. Thank you if you are listening for the first time or the 100th time. This podcast has become a piece of my motherhood, my growth, and my voice. And today I'm honored to share that with my kids and with you all. So until next time, keep running, keep sipping, keep embracing the joy of motherhood, and I will be back next Tuesday.